Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a lovely day and that you had a wonderful holiday weekend as well. We've got plenty of news to go through today. First of all, we're going to be talking about another Inspector General that was let go by President Trump, which is sure to cause some waves at the Pentagon and the DOD. We're going to learn all about that. We're also going to be checking in with Devin Nunes. He says that GOP lawmakers are expanding their investigation into the special counsel, and they're going to be making additional criminal referrals. We've also got news from reporter Adam Housley that some additional names are going to be coming up soon, including McMaster, Rosenstein, and No Name himself. We have a letter to Senator Mark Warner from acting DNI Rick Grenell as he walks out the door because today the confirmation process took place with new DNI John Ratcliffe. That should be something interesting. We have another farewell message from Grenell to the German ambassador, where we've also learned that Grenell will no longer be in the position of ambassador to Germany. And we've got new documents that Grenell has also declassified on his way out the door. And finally, we're going to go through a list of major wins that Rick Grenell gave us in his time as acting DNI, helping us to drain the swamp and clean up America. All right, guys, so we've got all this and more. Please do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Are you concerned with all the health situations that are going on right now in the world? Well, if you'd like some peace of mind for you and your family, check out today's sponsor for a natural alternative. You may think about essential oils just as something that smells good. Well, in most cases, that's very true, but if you have Certified Pure Therapeutic Grade essential oils, they are good for so much more than just that. Major civilizations throughout the centuries recognized the capabilities of essential oils. Egyptian grave robbers would often steal the essential oils instead of the gold, and frankincense and myrrh was brought to baby Jesus. Essential oils were used throughout the Dark Ages for their antibacterial benefits, and even in World War II, they were used successfully to treat injured soldiers. Today, we see essential oils are being studied extensively and are being used in some medical settings. Many studies have documented that Certified Pure Therapeutic Grade essential oils have the capability to stop superbugs like MRSA, relieve chronic pain, elevate moods, restore cells, and aid in treating life-threatening diseases. These essential oils don't just treat symptoms. They work at the root of the problem at the cellular level. And what's surprising is that essential oils are often faster, safer, more effective, and less expensive than their synthetically recreated products from drug companies and without the harmful side effects. It's time to take your health into your own hands and be prepared for all of life's little emergencies that might come your way. But don't be fooled. Quality means everything with essential oils. Go to bit.ly/redpill78 oils for more information on the purest oils on the market and to get started with your own essential oils today. What might these oils have in store for you? Well, go to bit.ly/redpill78 oils and find out today. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today we have a story about yet another Inspector General who has been forced to resign by President Trump. He was actually removed, and then there was another position he was in which would have required him to be an Inspector General to continue on in that role. So he's out. He's no longer going to be there. His name is Glenn Fine. He was the Principal Deputy Inspector General of the Department of Defense, and he stepped down from his position in the Pentagon on Tuesday. He gave us a statement, and of course, it's all flowery and sounds really great. The time has come for me to step down and allow others to perform this vital role. It's been an honor to serve in the Inspector General community, both as the Inspector General of the Department of Justice and the DOD Acting Inspector General and Principal Deputy Inspector General performing the duties of the DOD Inspector General. So he was acting as the DOD Inspector General. Just because he was acting in that role at the time that President Trump took office, it doesn't mean that President Trump has to keep him in that position. He got a couple of years out of him. He served in at least 2 administrations, but I'm certain that Dems are going to have a major problem with President Trump choosing yet again who to hire and fire as the chief executive officer, the president of the United States. He says the role of inspectors general is a strength of our system of government. They provide independent oversight to help improve government operations in a transparent way. They are a vital component of our system of checks and balances, and I am grateful to have been a part of that system. system. Now, Fine was already working as the acting inspector general for the Department of Defense before President Trump entered office, so he's been in an acting capacity for quite some time. Now, he was selected from a group of inspector generals to oversee the implementation of the $2.2 trillion CV-19 economic relief package known as CARES. Glenn Fine, in his role, would have been the chairman of a new pandemic response accountability committee, but President Trump fired him from his acting inspector general role just before the committee convened. Now, because he is no longer an inspector general, he cannot serve on the committee. That is why we have both the firing and the resignation. Now, the president has temporarily replaced Fine with an inspector general from the Environmental Protection Agency, and Fine is just one of many inspectors general who have been removed by President Trump in recent months. Now, as the duly elected president of the United States, President Trump has the right to hire and fire a variety of people throughout a variety of departments. So this is completely within the purview of his office. Like I said, I think the Dems are going to have an issue with it. I'm sure this is going to be raised as yet another thing that President Trump has done to politicize the process, but it's all politics. Everything that you see here in Washington, D.C. is politics. President Trump, you've got the right to hire and fire who you want. Let's get somebody else in there who's going to actually drain the swamp. Something tells me that because Fine was a holdover from the last presidential administration, this was a good move. Every time we hear from Devin Nunes, there is a bombshell that is dropped, and he has been out speaking yet again about the Mueller investigation. That's right, that has not gone away. The ripples are still being felt throughout the political circles of Washington, D.C. He says that the GOP lawmakers are planning on expanding the investigation into what happened on the special counsel. We will be making criminal referrals of the Mueller team. Why? Because they broke the law. Now, this is not the first set of criminal referrals that Nunes has put forward in his role on the House Intel Committee, and I'm certain that it will not be the last, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they are. But remember that Nunes always argued that Mueller should have been immediately shut down because there was nothing to the investigation. It was a waste of taxpayer money. The dossier had been debunked, and there was no coordination between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin. However, the Dems and the people in the government who wanted to stifle the incoming presidency of Donald Trump, they did everything they could to try to remove him from office and try to stop him from draining the swamp, but it did not work, and now here we are. He specifically called out then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein for using Hillary's phony Russia dossier in his scope memo, which authorized Mueller to start that fishing expedition. This is the same scope memo originally written in August of 2017 and recently declassified with redactions just a few weeks ago. He wrote a total of 3 scope memos giving Mueller permission to rove around unchecked in fishing expeditions, only targeting Trump officials, not going after people who committed crimes. The key thing here is that these people were part of the Trump campaign. The idea that they committed crimes didn't matter as long as they were part of the Trump campaign. And we've learned since that time that this was all about playing defense to cover up the crimes of the former presidential administration. Now, that scope memo revealed that Mueller investigated Mike Flynn, a 3-star general and Trump's national security advisor, for the crime of engaging in conversations with Russian government officials during the transition, which by all accounts is something he had the legal right to do as the incoming national security advisor. Now, of course, we've got people like Brandon Van Grack, Rod Rosenstein, Andrew Weissman. We all believe they should be tippy top of the criminal referrals list, but let's go ahead and take a listen to Devin Nunes talking about this himself. He is a wonderful, wonderful patriot.
And look, this is where our investigation currently is. We're looking into everything that happened with Mueller. We already know what happened with General Flynn is clearly corruption at the highest level. He should have never been prosecuted. There was Brady evidence, exculpatory evidence against him that wasn't presented to the court. But also, we were running an investigation. The House Republicans were running the only legitimate investigation that's ever been run to this point. And guess what? At the highest levels, we were blocked. We weren't allowed to see the scoping memo. Now, somebody has to answer to that. Why? We were conducting an investigation. We wanted to know what is it that Mueller's looking at, and so why didn't we get that information? We know why, because they would have gotten blown out of the water. Because it's at that point that we discover that the Clinton campaign had paid for this dirt, that Rod Rosenstein, the FBI, all the dirty cops, they were all using this dirt to investigate the Trump campaign.
You've told me that you're making criminal referrals to the Department of Justice. With regard to what and whom?
So we've already made many referrals based on conspiracy on the entire, how did this start? How did they get the FISA warrant against the Trump campaign? How did they do the illegal spying? Those in lying to Congress, obstructing Congress. Those referrals have already been made, and we continue to update the information as we get more people that come forward and bring us information. We're able to analyze it, so we continue to update that. But we've also expanded our investigation into the Mueller team and everything that happened with Mueller and the people at DOJ and FBI that were above Mueller. And so we will be making criminal referrals in the coming weeks against the Mueller team. We're just now putting that together. And of course, always, as always, waiting on more documents that we really need to come out. And, thankfully, Ambassador Grenell, the acting director of national intelligence, thank God, got a lot of this information out because the public really needs transparency in this.
So excellent news there. We've already gotten quite a few referrals. Those referrals have been handed off to the DOJ. I would imagine those are going to be in the possession of U.S. Attorney John Durham and his team. Now, with the specific investigation into the people on Mueller's team, which ended up becoming the people on Flynn's prosecution team, these people are going to be looking at additional criminal referrals. They lied from the very beginning. They did everything they could to stand in our way from learning the truth and to make sure that people who were trying to get law and order returned to this country would also not be able to get the truth. It was their plan to hold the information back as long as possible so that they would never get it in time for justice to be served. And hopefully, in their minds, they were thinking President Trump was going to be removed by the time any of this information came out. And then it's too late. President Trump's already gone and Hillary is already sitting on the golden throne. So Devin Nunes mentioned there that acting DNI Rick Grenell has been a tremendous asset in helping get this information out. And today, as he's preparing to leave the office of the Director of National Intelligence, he gave us yet another gift and has presented us with additional unredacted information. Let's go ahead and take a look at that as we learn a little bit more about Rick Grenell. So on his way out the door, and just in time for this new set of criminal referrals from Devin Nunes, DNI Rick Grenell has chosen to declassify a slew of new Russia probe documents, and they include things having to do with Michael Flynn, specifically the transcripts of those infamous calls. Grenell declassified these documents as he was walking out the door earlier today, and former Representative John Ratcliffe, who is now the acting DNI after his swearing-in ceremony earlier today, is going to be the one to actually release the documents. Now, apparently they include transcripts of both phone calls that the incoming National Security Advisor Mike Flynn and then Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak had in December of 2016 during the presidential transition period. Grenell said publicly last week that he was in the process of getting to the declassification of those files after House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff asked that he do so. Now, Fox News has learned that declassification review on those transcripts is complete, and it will be left up to Ratcliffe on whether to release them publicly. Now, that's not all. There are additional documents that have been declassified related to the origins of the Russia probe, including one that a senior intelligence official told Fox News was very significant in understanding how intelligence was manipulated to support launching the Russia investigation. So this is great news. Every single day we get additional revelations. Acting DNI Rick Grenell has done an incredible job. It makes you wonder exactly who might be on that list of names once this information comes out. It's certainly not going to look good for anyone involved in the Mueller team and anyone involved in the Michael Flynn case. Obviously, that is still ongoing, but Judge Sullivan is getting his rear end slapped by the Appellate Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. Let's go ahead and take a look at a bit of reporting from Adam Housley, because he thinks he knows some people who are not going to be very happy about these new disclosures. So Adam Housley, a reporter, has been talking a lot about the Spygate scandal, and he gave us some names to watch. He said McMaster should be on that list, Rod Rosenstein should be on that list, and No Name himself. Housley is a former Fox News reporter. He can generally be found on Twitter putting out really good information. He talks a lot about the Spygate scandal, and according to him, the scandal involves corrupt officials from both parties, as he suggested that the case is moving swiftly, and that these three men are in the crosshairs, none other than H.R. McMaster, former DAG Rod Rosenstein, and deceased U.S. Senator and Trump hater No Name. He said specifically, the corruption runs deep through both parties, and it ain't gonna look good when it's all said and done. It ain't about Republican and Democrat anymore. It really isn't. People were given the opportunity to do the right thing, and some chose wrong. It's about right versus wrong. Now, Housley continued, names to watch, McMaster, Rosenstein, No Name. This crosses party lines, and you all need to be prepared. This isn't about being pro-Trump or anti-Trump. You all need to understand that, and you need to be willing to call it out irrespective of party. He said major issues within the FBI, an agency that I love, as you guys know, but major issues. Sides being taken, and even amongst former agents, a lot of frustration, especially outside of headquarters. And he ends, Wray should have cut out the cancer and didn't. So clearly suggesting there that Christopher Wray took no action, knowing full well what happened inside the FBI. Also telling us, with no surprises, that the issues in the federal government cross party lines. It really is not about Democrat and Republican. There are bad people on both sides of the aisle. This is about right and wrong. We had people who were willing to destroy the incoming presidency of Donald J. Trump. They didn't like him. They didn't like what he was planning to do. They wanted to go ahead and continue to hold the power and make the money. And instead of doing the right thing, they tried to destroy him. And by virtue of their actions, they destroyed the people within President Trump's orbit. I would also say that they have stolen his first administration, essentially making it all about these fake made-up scandals. Now, I want to take you to that letter that now former interim DNI Rick Grenell wrote to Mark Warner on his way out the door. So during his time as interim DNI, Rick Grenell really shook the tree. He gave us a lot of big wins in terms of the DECLAS that we've all been waiting for the last several years, making good on the promise from our favorite Anon. Now, Mark Warner had apparently written him a letter on May 20th of this year, and he was, I guess, complaining about the declassification review that Grenell was doing, trying to put this information out. Specifically, he said, as you well know, the decision to declassify the names of individuals who sought to unmask the identity of General Flynn poses absolutely no risk of compromise of either sources or methods. That was Warner's chief complaint, that by doing so, people would somehow learn how this declassification process happens, or perhaps how the gathering of intelligence information would take place. Grenell refutes another point that by putting this information out, it would somehow undermine the credibility of the intelligence community. He says, in fact, it would ensure that the intelligence community would not conceal potential abuse behind unnecessary security classification. Now, he also finds it puzzling that Mark Warner's letter complains about the declassification of the identities of the unmaskers, a declassification that posed no conceivable risks to sources or methods, only to then request the declassification of actual intelligence reports, which could possibly reveal sources and methods because it's an intelligence report in and of itself, cherry-picking certain documents for release while attacking the release of others that don't fit your political narrative is part of the problem the American people have with Washington, D.C. politicians. So I just wanted to show you guys this letter because Rick Grenell really told Mark Warner what to do with his complaints. I want to show you this also because he clearly gets what it is that we're frustrated about, why the people in America have had it with the corruption taking place in Washington, D.C. Corruption knows no bounds. This is not about political party. We want the people who break the law and who use the might and power of the federal government to take smaller people and destroy them, and we want them removed. So since Grenell is no longer the interim DNI, I thought that it would make some sense to go through and show you guys a couple of the things that he did which successfully drained the swamp in Washington, D.C. First of all, as soon as he came in, he started downsizing and restructuring the ODNI. He cleaned house. He did this to both eliminate leaks from within the intelligence community and reduce interagency overlap in order to refocus the DNI resources on President Trump's priorities, as is his purview as President of the United States. He saved the United States taxpayer an estimated $19 million through the elimination and consolidation of government and contractor resources. Now, personally, I would rather have people within our own government actually taking a look at this stuff. I think that we have gone in a really, really poor direction by having all of these outside contractors doing it. We know that that has bit us in the rear end in the past, and if we can get rid of some of those people and save some money, I think that's a wonderful thing. He also instituted a hiring freeze at the ODNI in March. He eliminated 200 contractor positions, representing 15% of the total core contractor pool. He eliminated 100 positions by terminating vacancy requests posted for more than 18 months. He eliminated 10 government and contractor positions within the National Security Partnerships Directorate. He implemented a 15% reduction in the National Counterterrorism Center by eliminating overlapping efforts within the center, and also appointed the first woman, Laura Shio, to lead the NCTC. Now, keep in mind, the NCTC is also that organization that was spearheaded and put together by John Brennan, the former head of the Clowns in America, and a lot of the spying and leaking was coming out of that NCTC. He also established the Economic and Financial Security Executive, which is a position responsible for coordinating and leading economic security and financial intelligence-related efforts. He consolidated more than 4 cyber-related offices into a single unified U.S. cyber executive. He created a compartmentation task force, which is responsible for protecting the country's sensitive intelligence. He also appointed Neil Wiley, a career intelligence professional with over 35 years of experience, to serve as the ODNI's principal executive. Now, we cannot forget about all the work he did on the Russia investigation and on the Mike Flynn case. As noted by the president, Grenell made more information public regarding the Russia investigations in 3 months than the ODNI before him did in the 2.5 years while he was in office. Now, he also rewrote certain intelligence community procedures to protect citizens from future abuses of power by the government. Wonderful thing. He directed the IC to change the way they protect the identities of U.S. citizens contained within intelligence reporting. He completed the IC review of 53 transcripts from the House Intelligence Committee's investigation into alleged Russian collusion in the 2016 election and made the transcripts publicly available. He declassified previously redacted footnotes from the Justice Department Inspector General's report into the origins of the Russia collusion investigation. He declassified a list of government officials who requested the unmasking of National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Big win right there. He replaced FBI with ODNI as the primary group responsible for briefing presidential campaigns on information derived from national intelligence. So there we know the FBI was completely corrupt. They've taken them out of the equation altogether. He declassified former National Security Advisor Susan Rice's infamous email from that January 2016 Oval Office meeting where progress on the Russia investigation was discussed and coordinated, if you ask me. And he declassified additional transcripts in the ODNI's possession for potential public release by incoming DNI John Ratcliffe. He just set him up for the layup. All Ratcliffe has to do is dunk. He also pushed international intelligence community members to support LGBT issues. As you may know, Grenell is recognized as the first openly gay cabinet member in U.S. history, and he took it upon himself to push the IC to prioritize inclusion and sensitivity. Now, we've also learned that in addition to vacating that DNI role, Grenell announced over the weekend he's going to be stepping down in his role as the U.S. ambassador to Germany, a position in which he served for 2 years. Now, during that time, he was successful in pressuring Germany to commit to and upping its annual NATO defense funding. He called for a full ban on Hez and blocked the transfer of more than $300 million from German banks to Iran following Trump's withdrawal from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Now, we've got one more thing that Grenell did on his way out the door, and it is in regard to some bitter words from the German ambassador to the United States. So it was Sunday that we learned Rick Grenell was no longer going to be in the position of U.S. ambassador to the country of Germany. Now, the German government and its far-left media were never fans of Ambassador Grenell, or, for that matter, the Trump administration. They frowned on President Trump's insistence that NATO members pay up on their agreed financial obligations, and in a final parting shot to Ambassador Grenell, the German politician Dr. Andreas Nick took a cheap shot at Rick on his way out the door. He said, "For a generation, each and every U.S. ambassador I got to know personally, career diplomat or political appointee alike, used to leave his post as a highly respected figure and trusted friend of Germany. Now someone leaves issuing threats as if he were representing a hostile power." Now, Rick Grenell has a Twitter account, and he did not leave that comment untouched. He said, "You always wanted me to stop asking you publicly to pay your NATO obligations and calling for an end to Nord Stream 2. But these are U.S. policies, and I work for the American people." I just wanted to show you guys this as one final thing I think that really encapsulates why we've gotten so much movement out of all of these things from Rick Grenell and from nobody else. He cares about his country. He cares about America. He cares about our interests as the citizens of this great nation. All the work that he did was probably the most important of the last 3 years, until we get to the upcoming indictments from U.S. Attorney John Durham. But as of right now, Rick Grenell made all of this information public. He held NATO countries to their pledges, and he did not let anyone give him any crap as he walked away. Well, guys, I'm going to say it. I think that former interim DNI Rick Grenell was one of the most important pieces in this chess game since President Trump has come into office. As I said, John Durham is going to be coming up for his move very soon, but up until this point, Rick Grenell has gotten more done than anybody else in Washington. Despite the protestations of people in the federal government, despite people like Adam Schiff and Mark Warner trying to stand in his way, he has been an incredible asset to the American people this entire time, and I just want to say, no matter what Rick Grenell does next, I hope he's going to stay in the federal government and that President Trump will put him into another position where he can be used with the kind of moxie this guy's got. All right, guys, I think that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. It's Red Pill. I just want to say thank you once again to everybody that has helped to support the channel. If you'd like to get involved, you can go ahead and check the show notes in the pinned comment and the description. There's always good information in there. I've got a couple of backup channels. I ask that you go ahead and subscribe to them because if anything does happen here, I will start publishing there. And if you want things like merchandise or anything else, there is a bunch of information that you can find right below this video. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.